Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome to Geek Fruit Retcon, where we travel back in time to a previous episode from our inglorious history on the Geek Fruit Podcast. Happy listening, you nerds. Ahoy hoy! This is Geek Fruit. I am Jishnu. I have Dinkar with me. Say hello.
Hi.
Every time you just This week, we are going to talk all about Luke Cage, which just came out, and I'll say it right now, spoiler warning, we're going to ruin the entire thing.
Absolutely every detail.
This is a spoiler cast. We're going to go through 13 episodes in 1 hour as best we can, so you have been warned. And just so you know where our heads are at, especially my head right now, I literally saw the last episode less than 2 hours ago. We binge watched it. It came out. It's Monday afternoon right now as we're recording this. This thing came out midday Friday. So we saw it in about 72 hours, and I am horrendously sleep deprived. So forgiveness,
you
please.
Can tell.
Forgiveness, sir, please. So let's just get right into it. Luke Cage. Dinkar, go. Tell me. You just saw it 72 hours.
Yes.
What did you think?
My opinions are mixed because it started out on a real high. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like it tapered off halfway through.
I couldn't agree more.
Which has sort of been a problem for these Netflix Marvel series in general.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, okay, wait. Let's just start with a quick setting of the scene,
sure,
if you will.
Yeah.
We first met Luke Cage in Jessica Jones.
We did.
Where he kind of hung around being strong and silent,
mm-hmm,
as is his wont.
Mm-hmm.
Post that, this series begins with Luke working at a barber shop in
mm-hmm,
Harlem.
Yep.
And also moonlighting as a bartender
mm-hmm,
in the bar of one Cottonmouth Stokes.
Yep. He was a bar owner in Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
He used to be in Hell's Kitchen, owned a bar, so that made sense to me. I was happy that continued, because when I saw him at Pops, working as a at the barber shop, I was like, well, you were a successful business owner. I mean, like.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the nicest bar in the world, but I was like, oh, why are you like sweeping floors?
Well,
but
his
now
bar
it makes
blew
sense.
up,
His bar did blow up, so. Anywho. So continue on. You were saying?
So, he is moonlighting as a bartender,
mm-hmm,
like I said. At his bar, in the very first episode, he meets Detective Misty Knight
mm-hmm,
and proceeds to do the deed.
Yeah, do that. Get coffee.
Get coffee.
That's
as a metaphor that was used constantly throughout the series, which is unbelievably corny, if you ask me.
And which was also brought about a lot of times. The
fact
fact that it was very corny.
A addressal of the fact that the show can get very corny.
Yeah. This particular show was full of sort of self-aware jokes and puns, like all over the place. Like, even at one point at like a pivotal scene when Shades is addressing Diamondback, and he literally says, what are you talking about Willis? To which the response is, are you really going to make jokes right now?
Yeah.
So, did you like the fact that it was that self-aware?
Yeah, in parts. So it was self-aware, not just in a funny way, but
mm-hmm,
also in a political way.
Very much so.
Yeah, because, I mean, everything that happens in the show is very tied into the whole,
echoing what's going on right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I personally really loved the fact that it was as self-aware as it was with everything in terms of the humor and in terms of the actual plot line and the narratives. But speaking to the humor aspect of it, last week we talked about sci-fi comedies and how we think that a lot of times comedy in science fiction is about self-aware things, just addressing the fact that wow, this guy has superpowers. What's up with that? And a point that I'd like to bring up, which I'm sure we'll get to more in a bit, is just really quick, is about Mike Colter's performance as Luke Cage.
Mm-hmm.
When we met him in Jessica Jones, he was this brooding, really mysterious character, and we didn't really know much about him because we were following.
Out almost nothing about him.
Yeah, and it made sense because we were following Jessica Jones's thing. It was her show, so fine. He's going to be this enigma, and that's cool. But in this show, where we get to know a lot about him, obviously over 13 episodes, he still a lot of times remained very stoic and very still. And when he would go from like 1 to 10, or like 0 to 60, if you will, when he got either angry or sad, it would just sort of come up out of nowhere, and I just thought I didn't really see much of that arc in his performance, unlike a lot of the supporting cast. I genuinely think this was one of the strongest casts that were collected especially of these 3 shows, let alone any show that I've seen. I thought this was one of the best casts I've seen. But what I liked about this whole tongue-in-cheek, self-aware humor that they kept dropping every now and again was the fact that it softened the blow of how serious Luke Cage is, and like how, brooding and like very depressed and emo the guy kind of is the whole time. Because I was thinking about this on the way that 2 of the biggest hits in the MCU, undoubtedly, are Iron Man and Spider-Man. And we've talked about this so many times, how, RDJ is Iron Man, and now Iron Man has to be RDJ for the rest of Iron Man's career. He's going to have to work off of what RDJ has made. And what people like so much about Tom Holland's Spider-Man, or the way he was handled at least, is how he's sort of the people's perspective on this universe. He is the most empathetic character because he's seeing it the way we see it, and he's going like, whoa, mid-fight, this is so cool. And I think that Luke Cage, at least tonally, I don't mean the character himself, but I mean this run of this show so far, has done the best job of bringing that awareness back into the game.
Yeah.
Like all the Cap movies, all the Thor movies especially, are very, very like serious and like this is all we know, this is the way the world works. But like Luke Cage, while it is an incredibly gritty show about very real things that are happening right now and are very politically conscious about stuff that's going on, especially in America, when it had its lighter moments, it was very much like just sort of, just hop, skipping and jumping around being like, yeah, we're having fun because it's a corny superhero thing and we're going to say Sweet Christmas at random points and we're going to laugh about it because we know what we're doing. And much like how I mentioned, like RDJ's line when he finally says, okay, Spider-Man, and he takes a moment to like pause for thought and like give a look of bravado before he like puts a line aside. Like I like that it was light-handed that way, not overly heavy-handed, even though the material was arguably the most grim subject matter that I think Marvel has touched on, because it's so real. Like I have a strong feeling that season 2 will be highly influenced by whatever happens in November. With the election, like the way things are going to go down, possibly. I think that will really affect the plot line, especially for Luke Cage, let alone the other MCU stuff.
So let's talk about that for a minute before we jump into the plot itself.
Sure.
Just the setting of Luke Cage, I think, differentiates it from everything else we've seen so much. It's I mean, the Marvel Universe has always taken place in the real world, per se, but this feels way more real than anything we've seen so far. There's like constant references to pop culture. There are actual like guest musicians in every episode. There's a very strong...
In every episode?
More or less. I mean.
Oh, you mean the actual musicians on stage?
Yes.
You're not just talking about Method Man.
No, I'm not just talking about Method
Man. So not
Man.
real... Well, I guess... I'm assuming that the bands on stage were in fact real bands.
Yes,
I haven't looked this up. They were all real bands. That was all their music.
Yes,
that's awesome.
It's absolutely awesome. And of course, Method Man has like pretty much a straightforward role, as does Sway.
Yeah,
he's on Sway's universe in the thing. Have you ever seen Sway?
I have not seen Sway.
He is a super influential hip hop RJ.
Oh, is he like the Zane Lowe of hip-hop?
Yeah, he actually is.
Put it in that way.
And he's on the show as well.
Coincidentally, just before I forget, our previous producer who was on the show just a few weeks ago with you guys talking about Spider-Man, Siddhant Mehta, just texted me literally just a few minutes ago saying, I write this text as Method Man raps in Luke Cage, Bulletproof Love. We have reached the apex of Marvel TV. Yeah.
I kind of agree.
It's a fair statement.
It's very awesome. On the nose. It's like very in your face.
Yeah.
The nose is literally in your face, but I thought it was amazing.
It was good. It was great. I was very clenched the minute he came on screen. I was like, oh God, what's he going to do? There's going to be a song. I know it's going to happen. How are they going to deal with this? And as the song began, I was like, this is kind of cheesy, but then the song was really good. I was like, it's fine. I don't mind. It's a good song. It's cheesy, but the whole show knows that it's cheesy, so it's cool. It's great. Anyway, sorry, I cut you off.
So yes, the setting, I think, is straight away what makes this feel so different from everything we've seen so far. And I loved that about it. I loved the fact that Harlem seemed like this lived-in place. It didn't just seem like it was set in a Hell's Kitchen, which occasionally is the feeling you get from, say, a Daredevil.
Sure.
Or Jessica Jones was Hell's Kitchen as well.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as real as this seems to me. Because you meet so many of the secondary characters as well, which I think makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
Because the world is populated by people who feel very, very real.
Yeah.
Like, you've got Pop, who is the Uncle Ben of this universe, pretty much. You've got that Bobby Fish guy. All the kids you meet at the barbershop all felt very lived in. It reminded me a lot of The Wire.
Yeah.
In the sense that it seemed like it had a real existing world and you were meeting people as they went about it. And it just didn't seem like a bunch of characters.
Yeah.
And it just didn't seem like one person's journey.
Right.
I suppose that was necessary, A, because Luke Cage is a silent, stoic guy.
Yeah.
And he starts out as a reluctant superhero. So stuff has to happen to him and he has to interact with people for there to be any real forward progress.
Right.
So like straight away, he doesn't have any driving force, like a Daredevil did or a Jessica Jones did. He has to literally be drawn out because of circumstances like Pop dying.
Yeah.
And something like that. I mean, Pop is killed off in the second episode.
Second or third. Very early.
Very early on in the run.
Yeah.
And that still hits you because that character seems so real and he seems so mentory to
Absolutely.
Luke Cage.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Now that I think about it, when I think back on the 2 seasons of Daredevil and with Jessica Jones, obviously, they're set in Hell's Kitchen, and you sort of get to know a little bit about the place around them, and they keep saying, we're going to save Hell's Kitchen. This is our hood. This is our place. This is our tribe. This is our whatever. But there aren't that many supporting characters that I can think of
none
that really stick with me, that are just bystanders. This particular story had a lot of bystanders that we got to know that had didn't have, I can't say nothing, but didn't have all that much to do with progressing the plot. They were victims, and we had to empathize with the victims, because I think the one interesting thing to think about, even though Carl Lucas was brought up in Hell's Kitchen and in Harlem, and he has a lifelong tie to the place, Luke Cage, who people don't know,
Carl Lucas
he was
born up in Georgia.
He was born up in Georgia. Okay,
that's the son of a preacher man.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better. So since Carl Lucas wasn't brought up in Harlem, when Luke Cage comes in, as we start the show, he's only been here for a little while. So he is meeting everybody, not for the first time, but he's sort of being introduced to people pretty much at the same pace as we are.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Hell's Kitchen storylines, these guys have been there for a while, so they don't feel the need. I guess it's the way those stories are told. It's not as vital for us to sort of get to know the lay of the land, because Luke Cage needs to understand the lay of the land, because he's also a newcomer, much like we, the audience, are as well. So I thought that was a really interesting device that way, because everybody else in all the other Marvel movies and shows, they're established in where they are. There aren't too many newcomers, not that I can think of off the top of my head. Nobody that I can think of that's sort of a fish out of water. But in this one, he's creating, one, a brand new identity, literally, and two, he's hiding a past, and he's sort of trying to stay underground. If you want to stay underground with these people, these are very tight-knit people that know everybody's business like the back of their hand. So if you're a brand new guy, like 6'6", giant mofo that comes out of nowhere, you need to get to know these people really well for them to trust you. And so if you're going to do that, then we are going to get to know everybody else as well. Does it make sense to get where I'm coming from?
I get what you're saying.
So I really appreciated that ground level ness, I guess, of
so
the whole
the
thing.
setting, top notch. Now let's just go through, say, the first major plot point that happens, which is Luke is working at Cottonmouth's bar, and Cottonmouth gets into a disagreement of sorts with Luke's mentor, Pop. Mentor, would you say?
Yeah.
Well, maybe. He could have risen up to become an actual barber one day. He was just sweeping hair at first. So basically, a bunch of kids get into a whole scrape with Cottonmouth because they off one of his guys and steal a bunch of his money.
Yeah.
So Cottonmouth is on the lookout for those guys. Pop cares about one of those kids, so he's hiding him out at the barbershop.
Yep.
And one of Cottonmouth's lackeys, thinking that this was what Cottonmouth would want, goes and shoots up the entire place and kills Pop.
Yep.
Luke manages to save a kid. And this is probably what first motivates Luke to actually make something of his superhero-ness. Now, are you on board with us so far? How did you like it up to this point?
Oh, great. I can tell you without question, I was completely on board up until about episode 6. Now, I should mention that I've brought this up before, especially with Netflix shows that are 13 episodes long, that I'm a big advocate for pacing them out in 3 batches. So if it's 13 episodes, you do 4 at a time with 1-5 or something like that.
You mean the way you watch them?
Yeah. Ideally, I think that's how you should watch them. Because it's essentially a giant movie, right? The way each episode bleeds into the other is immediate. So I actually watched, I was really excited for this, right? So I watched the first 6 episodes back to back, 6 hours straight, which I actually don't recommend because that's a little too much to take in.
It's pretty intense.
But for those 6 hours, I was able to do it because I was really, really hooked. And this entire plot point you're talking about with the Cottonmouth people coming by and shooting up the place and everything, I was with it 100% completely. I was totally into it. That being said, I fully expect, it's only been a few days since the thing's been out, so there aren't too many reviews out. I fully expect to hear a lot of people critiquing the show for having a slow pace, which I
kind
think
of enjoy the slow pace, though. I think those
absolutely.
first 6 episodes,
I agree completely.
You just get to feel so much for each and every character in those first 6 episodes.
Right.
Cottonmouth's entire character is so well laid out, I thought, in those first... I mean, it's a great actor. Mahershala Ali absolutely kills it as that guy. He is so
arguably,
good.
Maybe I liked him. I might like him more than I like David Tennant as Kilgrave.
I think so too.
There's tough competition.
Especially with the way he handles stuff, I was hoping he'd become as iconic as Stringer Bell in The Wire. Yeah. And I feel like that was a very conscious reference. Like somewhere in the middle of the thing, he's holding a meeting and one guy puts up his hand, one of his lackeys, and goes like, well, I've been reading this book. And I was like, oh my god, this is such a Stringer Bell moment. Because, I mean, Stringer Bell's whole thing was he was trying to bring top-class management to a gangster outfit. Except Stringer Bell kills that guy.
I haven't seen The Wire.
Oh my god.
It's on a list that is like 100 shows deep. I will get to it maybe before I'm 80, but it's going to happen eventually.
God,
I don't know. There are a lot of shows.
I've been throwing out Wire references all this time.
I've been smiling and nodding politely, but nobody can see it. So
right.
Anyway,
it's all about this one wire that's just hanging loose.
Was it red wire, green wire, blue wire?
It's about, well, that's the question. Which one is the wire? That's what the show is about.
Okay.
All right, fine. I'm going to avoid wire references, though. But there's like about 6 or 7 actors, I think, on this show
that are
from
in The Wire.
Yeah, Method Man for starters.
Sure.
Method Man played like a significant role on The Wire.
All right.
Anywho, we're talking about Cottonmouth as a villain. He was absolutely great. I thought Mahershala Ali, as we said, was spectacular, which is why it was such a disappointment that his entire arc is resolved by episode 7. He's killed off.
Yeah.
And I just thought, why? Because by the end of his run, he kind of starts losing it. He's suddenly looking for this Judas bullet, which is the only substance on Earth, apparently, that can penetrate Luke Cage's skin.
Yep.
He is constantly running in terror of this unseen antagonist called Diamondback. And suddenly, he's just killed by his sister, Mariah Dillard.
So I normally, I'm always an advocate for deaths like that are set up in such a way where like you just love the guy, and especially if it's a character that you empathize with. If that character is a villain, then you've won the character game in my book, because it's always easy to like root for the good guy. But if I can root for the bad guy, not only because he's cool, but because like he's really humanized. When you get to know his backstory and like you get to know about his upbringing and the way he was abused as a kid and how he wanted to be a musician, and like he was just forced into this by Mama Mabel. That was her name?
Mabel,
yeah.
Yes.
Forced into this life. I really felt for the guy. And the fact that he was killed off, I agree, it was a little like, really? No, you could have done so much more. But at the same time, it's a very brave move. And that makes me that much more excited for the next season, because I love that these writers have the balls to do that. Make a really, really good character with a brilliant actor behind him, and then kill him off. It takes guts, because you're killing a cash cow, right? As far as like characters are concerned, you're killing a brilliant cash cow. If you have the balls to do that, then you have to have an ace in the hole. Yeah. So I definitely think that Diamondback was not that ace in the hole, but I'm really optimistic that since Mariah is alive, what's that actor's name? I forget.
Alfre Woodard.
Okay, so since she
By
is,
the way, do you realize she was in Civil War?
Was she?
She was the woman who meets Tony Stark outside the elevator and goes like, "You killed my son."
Oh my god! Really?
Yeah.
You just blew my mind.
Exactly. Is she the same person? I don't think so.
She wasn't the same person?
She's not playing the same character. They just used the same actress twice.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
No, you just blew my mind for a second time for a completely different reason. Okay.
I guess they just...
Wow.
Maybe the...
Are you positive?
Yeah.
We'll corroborate on this during the break.
It is 100% true.
We'll look up the evidence.
I checked it the first time I saw her. I was like, wait a second.
I know. I recognized it the entire time. I was fighting the urge not to like look at my phone and like IMDb everybody, because since we binged on the show in 72 hours, for you good people, by the way, I hope that you appreciate the efforts that we gave up 13 hours of our weekend just sitting in front of a screen like a bunch of fat slobs watching this show. But I tried really hard not to give into the urge of like looking up every little detail, because all these references that were thrown around, I picked up on a couple of them and I was like, ooh, was that a mention to that thing and that thing? I tried really hard to like just stay focused on this. So we'll look this up in the break and just make sure that we're...
It is true.
Cool. Okay.
You.
I've totally lost our train of thought. What the hell were we talking about?
Okay, so we were talking about the fact that killing off Cottonmouth was actually a brave decision,
yes.
and I kind of agree there.
Yeah.
And it kind of hits you. It's
totally
the perfect
does.
thing to keep you watching after episodes 6 or 7, because you're like, where are they going to go from here?
Absolutely.
What I feel let down by is the stage is perfectly set for Mariah Dillard, played by Alfre Woodard. Again, a great performance, great actress.
Absolutely.
I felt like up until that point, she'd been shady. But she also seemed like she had really noble intentions. She was like, I care about Harlem, I care about these people, and I don't agree with your methods, but I'll just turn a blind eye to it because I only care about getting my money and then doing some good. And I was hoping that this would be the turning point for her character to essentially take over as the big bad of this season. And we weren't sure what Diamondback was. He was an unknown quantity up to that point. And everybody's talking about him like, hey, Diamondback's around, everyone be careful. So, you're really anticipating that. And I figured Mariah and Diamondback would sort of balance each other out. But suddenly the entire show is taken over by Diamondback. And he was not, like you said, the ace in the hole. A terrible villain, if you ask me.
I think it was also because he came in out of the blue at that moment when he was killed off. But the fact that Diamondback didn't kill Cottonmouth, it didn't make him any more impressive when he showed up. He was a cool enigma, like he was a name that was whispered in the shadows. He was like the Voldemort. That's cool, that's fine, that's great. But now the fact that this guy who we've been rooting for all the wrong reasons, obviously, but rooting for, was killed off by this other person, Mariah, she's now immediately gone up in cool points by 100. And then you introduce this other guy, Diamondback, out of nowhere. I was like, well, that's great, but...
And that's why you're also sidelining Mariah, because
Exactly,
Diamondback, if he had... His
if he was the one that killed
was
her.
a letdown.
Yeah.
Just by, like, even the way he turns up, he's built up as, like, this guy who's got power over, like, the entirety of Harlem, and he can, like, he's overseeing all the mob bosses.
Right.
But then, like, he's running around, like, shooting a gun, like some common hitman. And you're like, what's up with the guy?
Yeah.
The actor's performance as well is, again, I feel like that's the point where the entire show becomes comic booky in a way that is...
not in the good way. Not in the good way.
Yeah, exactly. Not in a good way.
Yeah.
It's kind of at odds with the first half of the season, which feels real. Yeah. And, I mean, like, pick a lane, man. Either go all comic book from the start.
Absolutely.
Or keep it real.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, halfway through, the entire show just pivots to, like, oh, wait, he's his brother.
But see, that's also, like, when we get into the Seagate backstory, and we see all the references and Easter eggs to his origin story, and like he says he looks like an idiot or whatever when he sees himself wearing his original outfit.
Yes, which I actually liked.
That was fun. That was cool. That was fun. But I feel like you said, from that point, once the death of Cottonmouth happens, the page turns and it goes back into comic book world. And that's when they start dropping references left, right, and center to his origin, and that gives you all those "ooh, cool! I've been waiting so long to see this" moments, which are always fun. But then I felt like that was a far higher priority for the show, because like we said at the very beginning, it was slower paced. It wasn't as exciting. It was a lot more bang bang explosions for the second half, which is fun, and that'll get the audience in because, oh wow, this is cool, and there's an action show now, great. The first half of the show was far more talk, talk, and like, let's look at these characters and get to know them.
There were some great action set pieces as well.
There were.
When Luke takes over Crispus Attucks. Well, not takes over, but just literally walks in looking cool AF, and walks out with like one bag of money and leaves.
But again, we saw that exact scene at length in a bunch of teasers. I think the first teaser was that scene.
Yeah.
So there was nothing new in terms of action in the first half, and so. I just agree with you completely. I think that the second half was a bit... No, I don't want to say it was pandering to the audience, but it was definitely more catered to...
So I agree with you that there are moments that are pandering to the audience. My issue is the entire plot kind of throws logic out the window after a certain point. Right from the introduction of Diamondback.
Sure.
Luke's whole history, great.
Yeah.
But Luke gets shot by a Judas bullet. He's injured.
Yeah.
Right from there, it stops making sense.
Yeah.
This guy is a brilliant marksman, clearly.
Yeah.
So he snipes Luke from, like, a huge distance, and he gets him like right in the...
I think he said medium range. I have no idea what medium range implies, but
okay, well,
medium range.
He shoots him a second time. They're literally like 10 feet apart.
Right.
The guy's got an insanely powerful bullet,
Yeah.
and he shoots him in the shoulder.
Yeah.
Luke falls into a garbage truck that drives very, very slowly away, and the guy just stands around staring. And I'm like, okay, he's letting Luke go.
Yeah.
2 scenes later, he's like, let's find Luke. Why have you guys not found Luke? I'm like, you let him go just now, dude. So
True.
Pot calling the kettle black.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you completely. Okay.
And then like Luke's whole origin. Hold on.
Yeah.
He is a former cop.
Yeah.
He is a former Marine.
Yeah.
He's the son of a preacher.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he's the brother of Diamondback.
Amateur boxer.
Yeah. This dude has lived a very full life.
Very rich life. Yeah.
Here's what I don't get.
Sure.
Because there's so little explained. Just before Diamondback shoots Luke a second time, he goes, I am your brother. And Luke just looks confused. He's like, what? That is the most ridiculous look I've ever seen.
And that was, again, like at the end of the episode, right? So I feel like a lot of episodes from the second half on ended in that fashion of like totally stereotypical cliffhanger moment. Like, I'm your twin. What? Yeah, exactly. All these like really cliched, like, I'm your brother. Wait, no, I don't have a brother.
There was no motivation for him not to know.
Yeah.
When he eventually finds out, he doesn't really discover it in any way. Luke goes back home to his church.
Oh my god.
It's literally like
the revelation moment was just pure crap.
He walks into his house, looks around and goes like, oh yeah, he is my brother. I'm like, did you have to go all the way to Georgia to figure that out?
Okay. Let's take a little break.
Wait. Was Luke Cage also a manufacturer of hard drives? Because he was in Seagate?
Well, actually, I have to mention, speaking of Seagate hard drives, on that note, when they're in the barn, I thought I never empathized with the crying, pathetic scientist character more than when Luke Cage tears up the barn and like he wrecks all the stuff and walks away. And then you see the guy like crawling on the floor trying to like repair his stuff, and he finds the hard drive for the computer and like he dusts it off and he's like, oh my god, please work, and he plugs it back in and it works. And he's like, yes. And I was like, I've been there, buddy. We all know what it's like when your hard drive gets crashed and you're like, oh no, please tell me it works. And it's like, yes, it works.
He must have been like, I have all 10 seasons of Friends on there.
Exactly. Like that was like the most relatable moment for that character. He's like, my hard drive is broken, please tell me it works.
And this is one of the reasons we say Luke Cage feels so real.
It's gritty, man. You care about them hard drives when they get all dusty and stuff. Anyway, let's take a break, and we're going to come back with some thoughts that Tejas wrote in with, and we will get to more things, because there's plenty of it.
Long, long ago, not in Bethlehem, but in a place nearby, there was a wonderful birth of a huge show, which I like to call Cyrus Says, a show that encapsulates everything in human history, from the first Homo sapien to the last Homo sapien, who's traversed the entire world and then come back to India. This is a show which tells you everything about everything. If you want to know, avoid Google, come to us. It's called Cyrus Says. Get new episodes every Monday on the IVM podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts on. You get one banana water free with every podcast. Right, I'll just check that.
Hoi hoi, we're back talking about Luke Cage and such. So, where would you like to move to?
Well, I would like to move to some thoughts from Tejas Menon,
Alright.
who is here in spirit.
Cool.
Alright. First off, let's take a moment for Pops. Take a moment, Jishnu.
Okay.
The moment has been taken.
Alright.
That is enough. We'll just cut that part out.
No, that's fine.
The moment. Alright, we'll leave it.
Leave the moment.
Alright.
Keep the moment for Pops. It's for Pops, man.
Where do I even begin about Luke Cage? You're right, Tejas. Okay.
So where does he begin?
Okay. I'm just going to sum up his thoughts since he's written quite a bit. I loved it. I think it's the most original show from the 3 released so far. We agree there. Where Daredevil and Jessica still followed a comic book hero path with their story structure. I really enjoyed the first half of the season not being too much like that format.
Ditto.
Again, agreed. This show has the most character from the ones we've seen, and I love it. Again, agreed. Mahershala Ali as Cottonmouth is quite tragic. He's set up as a villain, but he bites the dust because he was never meant to be one. I think he was a good guy deep down who just wanted to be a musician. Can totally relate there. He did love Pop, and the way he takes out the way he takes out tone shows that. I think that's an autocorrect situation. Also, Pop is not capitalized, so I think he means he loves pop music. Which, by the way, the man has spectacular taste in music.
And I'm assuming that was him actually playing it. Because he strikes me as the kind of actor that would do that.
Yeah.
So, kudos.
Yeah, well done, Mahershala Ali.
I have a feeling that Rhodes keyboards will now get a spike in sales thanks to that man single-handedly. Single-handedly.
I saw a few Mike Colter interviews, and man, that guy is full of energy and life and stuff, as opposed to Luke Cage, quiet and just trying to mind his own business. Proves that he's a really constructed character here, unlike himself. All right, agreed.
Sure, fair enough.
I like Mike Colter. I thought his performance was quite solid. I've seen some mixed reviews with a lot of people going he has no energy.
I feel a little bit of the same way. I was not terribly impressed with him. But also, that being said, I've said the same thing about Daredevil, Jessica, and Luke Cage. I thought that their supporting casts were all amazing. Mm-hmm. The characters themselves were not portrayed the best, in my opinion.
No, yeah. I mean, maybe to some extent with Charlie
I'm not saying they were bad. I'm not saying they were bad at all. I'm just saying that they were outshone by their supporting casts.
I don't know. I thought Kristen Ritter was pretty amazing.
Not so much for me.
Maybe that's
not
just
bad.
Because
she wasn't bad at all. She was actually really good.
Yeah.
But I always found myself focusing on Malcolm, the guy next door, or a bunch of the other characters at all times. Whenever I was in a scene with the two of them, I always enjoyed. Yeah, I always enjoyed watching the other characters more.
This is true. Maybe I'm just biased because I'm in love with her.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right.
It happens.
I knew they were going to bring in Striker/Diamondback. We're back to Tejas' mail, by the way.
Yeah.
I knew they were going to bring in Striker/Diamondback later on in the season, but his sudden appearance with the Judas Bullets felt a bit contrived.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Why did his hatred for Luke Cage come in so randomly? Even though I don't consider him as the primary villain, they could have handled his entire relationship better, even though Luke's side was better fleshed out. Yeah, well, I agree completely there. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, he is the primary villain. He completely takes over the second half of that show.
Yeah.
And that is sort of where all the problems stem from. Again, contrived is putting it mildly, because are we saying that this guy who's running all of Harlem just suddenly discovers that his half-brother is hanging around?
I guess, yeah.
It's very forced. And
it is very
forced. Pull it off in a better way. Because, it's a very comic booky trope something like that to happen.
It is.
But they just don't pull it off in a convincing way, which is why we're asking these questions.
Yeah.
Claire is the greatest. Yes.
Hands down.
Oh my God, that lady is amazing.
Hands freaking down.
Claire Temple, you are the champion.
Did you notice the little Easter egg reference to Iron Fist at the end?
Yes.
When she grabs the martial arts poster, so I'm very excited to see that happen.
Exactly.
When
in
it does.
fact, Tejas mentions that as well. She seems to pull a martial arts class number from a flyer that reads Colleen Wing.
There you
Definitely want to see her in Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Well, and this is clearly the entry point for her.
Yeah.
As well as Misty, since they are probably going to hook up.
So, is it safe to assume that Claire's going to be the Nick Fury to the Defenders?
She's the one who brings them all together.
Maria Hill at the least.
It's possible. And I feel so the barbershop.
Yeah.
Bobby Fish is hanging down there at the end saying this place doesn't want to be a barbershop, clearly.
Yeah.
And everyone just sort of shrugs and goes I wonder what we'll do with it. I feel like that'll become the headquarter of the Heroes for Hire, which we'll see in the Defenders.
Yeah.
And Claire will also probably hang around there, since she's clearly around.
Yeah, because her mom lives right next door.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Overall, I loved it, man. Such a socially relevant thing with the Black Lives Matter situation going on. Loved that they used the hoodie as a way to show that a hero could be under one as opposed to a suspect. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
And the music, one of the best parts of the show. Great scoring, and the OST just brought the whole show alive.
Absolutely.
The music was, I think, easily the best part of the show, really. And one point he mentions that I think we should get into now.
Sure.
How far apart are Harlem and Hell's Kitchen?
So, I looked it up.
Yeah.
On the way here, I looked it up.
All right.
So, it is the same. It's 5 miles, which is not a lot. To give you perspective, that is the distance from Kolaba to Dadar, or Dadar to the Bandra Sea Link.
That is not a lot.
That is not a lot of distance.
Also, Luke Cage was all over the news.
Yeah.
So at some point...
No, everybody's all over the news. At some point in time in everybody's story arc, all 3 of those characters were brandished all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
The Devil of Hell's Kitchen was all over the newspapers and all over TV. Jessica Jones, her finale attack with Kilgrave by the pier was referenced in this story. They said there was some dude that got choked out by this girl with superpowers and whatnot. It's everybody knows. Everybody's very much aware of it. Obviously,
why is no one where is S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I can address that. They're out chasing Inhumans, and they have a Nicolas Cage 2.0 in form of Robbie Reyes to deal with.
I see.
So they have their hands full.
All right.
But then they're not
full enough to go let's just ignore that guy.
Although this kind of makes sense. I'm glad you brought this up. This kind of makes sense. S.H.I.E.L.D. in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. story are never too bogged down in one city.
All right.
They're literally worldwide. They jump between continents like within a matter of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And actually on the season premiere, they mentioned some joke about the fact that they had just flown through, I think, 4 continents in a span of 24 hours.
Okay.
Because they have the Quinjets and stuff like that. So they're far more global.
So you think, 5 miles is nothing to them?
5 miles is nothing to them. And
they should have dropped in at least and gone like, yo, what's going on here?
So speaking of that, right, one reference that I was trying to find, which the minute Diamondback was mentioned, I thought that it would be tied back, because he's a big arms dealer and the whole Hammer Industries and whatnot, I thought there would be a reference back to Frank Castle. Because when we last saw Frank Castle, he was sort of like just starting his second round of Vendetta, because he did the first one all through the second season of Daredevil. Now he's going on his own version 2.0 of that, with an arsenal already in his hands, but clearly looking for more, right? So I was rooting for, now maybe I missed it, because I haven't looked up all the Easter eggs yet, because again, I literally saw this.
I don't think I got any reference to the
I'd be
Punisher.
surprised if there wasn't one somewhere in there.
Maybe there was a sly one in there.
Because again, I should remind people, we saw this, we finished seeing this literally like less than 12 hours ago.
I feel like,
I'm
most
still
of the Easter
reeling.
eggs were fairly obvious, like Claire Temple being called the Night Nurse. There's a Stanley appearance, did you catch that?
Yeah, and on a poster?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so I was expecting, since this whole show was about an arms race, basically, with Frank Castle around and the Punisher series greenlit, I was like, when are we going to see something about that? And I'm sure that when that happens, we'll see a reference back to this. Or like maybe he's going to go to Hammer Industries factory. I don't know, something like that's going to happen.
Does the Punisher series come out after the Defenders?
I'm not sure.
Next up is Iron Fist, right?
Next is Iron Fist. I don't actually know off the top of my head.
Okay.
This is where Tejas comes in handy.
But what we're clearly saying...
encyclopedic knowledge of this nonsense.
We're saying, though, that this world is getting pretty complicated. We've already seen, like we were just discussing, that Alfre Woodard played 2 different characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah. So, man, there's a lot of balls in the air at this point.
But I guess if you're going to do that with anybody, she's the one to do it with. Because, man, like, she's like she's sort of like an evil Oprah.
Yeah.
Meets Hillary Clinton.
Kind of, yes.
I don't think it was intentional, because clearly the show was filmed like a while ago. But now that I think about it, since I mentioned, I think that the next season is going to be very much driven by what happens in November with the presidential race. I think that a lot of the stuff that people have been scrutinizing Hillary Clinton for, with being like not being honest about stuff and keeping things to herself and not saying sorry for a lot of things or whatnot, backpedaling. I saw a lot of similarity in Mariah's character.
Interesting.
And she's still, at the end of this season, she's at the peak of her political power. Like, she's on the up and up again. She's sort of rising. She's sort of given a clean slate.
So I feel like her and, she's obviously going to take over in season 2.
Yeah. With Shades.
With Shades. By the way, Shades.
So what did you think of Shades? Get to Shades? I was not the biggest fan, but that is not a problem with the character. I think that was more a problem with the guy. I was not too happy with him. I thought that I just felt like I was getting the same expression, I guess, or just the same vibe in every scene, which is similar to my beef with Mike Colter. Similar, not as bad, not as much, but I thought
with Mike Colter it makes sense, because Mike Colter, his character goes through an arc. My problem here was, nothing happens to Shades. Like with Cottonmouth, there's an arc. There's a history there. Like you find out about him, you start to care about him.
Yeah.
The same with Mariah. The 2 villains that you have the biggest problems with, like Diamondback, he crazy. That's the problem. And with Shades, the guy doesn't do anything. He's set up as this like uber cool, really smart guy who's like the right-hand man of Diamondback and stuff.
Yeah.
But none of that pans out. He literally just like does the same thing for 13 hours straight.
Pretty much.
And also, he seems to be the only one with his head screwed on straight, because he tells Cottonmouth, dude, you're screwing this up, you're going to die. Cottonmouth dies. He tells Diamondback, dude, you're screwing this up, you're going to die. Diamondback dies. So clearly, Shades should be the guy running all of Harlem.
Absolutely, which I think now he will be.
Yeah, as the right-hand man of Mariah Dillard, apparently.
It's kind of cool that we've kind of gone full circle now, because Mariah is back to where she was.
Circle in such
I mean that Mariah's now back to where she was, in that she's the money and the face for this family and for the political campaign.
She's become Mama Mabel, really.
She's become Mama Mabel, and now Shades is the muscle and the drug dealing expert, also in charge of the club, along with her.
Well, I hope they use the character better, because I don't think it's I don't mind Theo Rossi as an actor.
Sure.
So I hope they do something more interesting with his character than just have him be around.
Absolutely.
He's cool.
He played the I'm just going to stand here and scowl at you from the corner card like in every scene, which got monotonous. But that being said, I think that the whole plot progression of the fact that he was always the one that got to say I told you so, because he never got too involved and always kept a safe distance, hence he's the only one left standing, makes sense to me. I just had beef with the fact that he never did anything and he was only just standing there out of harm's way.
Like Littlefinger.
Yes, exactly.
In a sense.
Which makes him smart.
He also does the whole like whispery thing the entire time.
Absolutely.
Like, I told you this.
Which gets old.
What are you talking about,
works.
Willis?
Yeah. He was the one that dropped the line. Yeah, he was the one that said it. Anywho. All right. So, where are we at now? So let's talk about Misty Knight. All right. So this was arguably one of the most tumultuous viewing experiences for me, watching her character development. Now, obviously, again, I'm going to bring this up. Seeing it in this ludicrous amount of binge watching that we did is not ideal, so I was watching it through dreary eyes the entire time.
Yes.
That being said, loved her character, loved the actor, brilliant job. But the whole vision thing, I was completely...
You mean her mind palace?
Yeah,
because
basically.
That's
basically what it is. I was so confused by it because there was no closure given to that.
Yes.
And so I'm left feeling the same way about her arc as I was with, I wish I could remember his name, but the antagonist at the end of Daredevil, Season 2?
Yeah.
The old guy. What was his name? Do you remember his name? I don't remember his name. The guy who Frank Castle steals all the arms from at the end of the season.
Oh.
Who was like behind it all along.
Yes.
But he's not really behind it because there's another guy who I guess we'll find out about in Season 3, who I was hoping might have been Diamondback. And I looked it up and it was not in fact Diamondback. It was another name.
Daredevil?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that Diamondback was the same guy that was providing arms to the Daredevil villain.
Yeah, which actually would make sense. Since Diamondback is supposed to be like the biggest arms dealer.
Exactly. So I was hoping that connection would. I was hoping that connection would happen, which did not. But what I'm getting at is basically, if you go back and listen to our episode where we reviewed Season 2 of Daredevil, Tejas and I both agreed that it was ended off really bizarrely, and that we still didn't have a clear perspective on what was going on with that old guy. This would be a lot more coherent if I could remember his name, but the guy that provided the arms, we don't know what the hell he was all about and who he got the arms from and like how he knows everything that he knows. Likewise with Misty, amazing performance, great arc when we're talking about everything that happened on the ground with her, but all the moments where we get taken into this mind palace world of hers and she sees things, I was expecting it to be some sort of like, oh, she's also like an Inhuman, or like she has some superhuman powers that we will eventually find out about.
She will be a part of the Defenders eventually. She's got like the photographic memory and thing. In the comics, she has a bionic arm,
which was vaguely referenced.
Yes,
when she gets shot. Does she have any like mind palace superpowers? Is that a thing?
She can remember everything apparently.
Okay, well. Is it a superpower, or is it just like she's just really smart?
I am not really sure. I haven't seen her comic arc.
Well, because the thing is, like, that visual style of storytelling was done. It was a really cool trick that they did with the whole, like, recreating the scene around her stuff. And they did that a lot.
Yes.
They did that a lot, and that was really cool. And I was hoping for a payoff of, like, this is a real thing that she's, like, actually doing. She is somehow, like, sort of teleporting herself. I mean, something. And they did it so often, and the plot points were, like, dependent on that so much that I was really hoping for something to happen, but they just didn't touch it at all. It was just a thing. So I have to say, like, that was really disappointing that like it ended without it.
Yeah, like clearly an issue with the second season. I mean the second half of the first season.
Yeah.
Another thing that I felt happened, her episode, by the way, where she was in this whole therapy session, that was great.
Really
and
awesome.
That's where like you get to find out a lot more about her character and stuff. But then from that point forward, it doesn't seem like she progresses a lot, because again, she just starts acting really stupid in parts. Like, for starters, she keeps walking around being pissed at Luke Cage because she feels like he's guilty.
Yeah.
When clearly everything she knows is pointing towards the fact that he's not, or at least that he's not outright guilty.
Yeah.
And she walks around pretending like, oh man, Luke Cage, you're screwing me over. And then there's the whole bit where she lets a witness get killed at the end.
Which one?
Candace Miller.
Candace, yeah.
That was so stupid. She lost her phone and so a witness died. I feel like you should be more competent at your job after that.
How did she lose the phone? She lost the phone in the
she lost
final
the
battle
phone
in
in
Pops.
the fight.
In
She
the Pops
knows
battle.
that the only way Candice Miller can get in touch with her
Yeah.
is through a phone. So
Yeah.
you'd think she'd be a little more like, oh
Yeah.
crap,
Yeah.
I better find that phone or something like that. Instead, she's just walking around going like, oh wait, my phone. And well, because of that, the entire case against Mariah falls apart.
Yeah.
Also doesn't make much sense.
That being said, I thought that I mentioned this briefly when I talked about like the whole hard drive thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that with reference to phones and the way they use technology and whatnot, this show seemed the most like grounded in actual reality when it came to using technology and the way they used it. Like tiny little things I actually really appreciated. The fact that when they opened up a computer screen and like looked at files on it, it was an Apple computer. They did not need to hide that it was a MacBook. They showed you the thing, and it was actually on an OS X thing, and you see the folder, and it's like, oh wow, that's actually what I would see. And it didn't feel like I was looking at stock tech, which is just like this abstract, like I can see anything can pop up and I'll have to believe it. Like this was like literally like right there in front of me.
Yeah, I guess if you're in Harlem, you can afford regular tech, and if you're Tony Stark, you get the fancy stuff.
Pretty much. Like I genuinely appreciated that. Like there was one tiny moment which made me chuckle when I think it was like the last episode or second last episode, actually right when they realized that she's left her phone behind. Mariah is in the car with Shades, and they go, oh, so where's the folder with all of Luke Cage's, or I guess Carl's backstory, which is like the pivotal
one
thing.
his innocence, yeah.
And he's like, oh crap, I left it behind. And Mariah's like, okay, it's cool. I have another plan. That's when she goes to get the phone, right? She goes to steal the other phone. But before she does that, she gets on a call with somebody, or somebody calls her, I think. And she picks up the phone immediately. And normally, I'm just a stickler for this because, like, as a filmmaker, like, I just like to like call people out on these random things because it's amusing to me. I noticed that she picks up the phone, and this was the only time that I saw this happen. And this is a stupid tiny detail, but because this is a podcast, I'm going to call them out on this. That it was on the home screen, and I could see that they blurred it. But every other time, you could see that it was actually like on the call screen, and like it was like actually a call, and you could see the guy's name.
So much. I feel like I remember that happening in like every Netflix show, maybe.
Really?
Yeah, it's such a common mistake.
Yeah.
Because why is it so tough? Just turn off your phone. Use a dummy phone. What are you doing?
Because like the call comes, the guy picks it up immediately, and it's just like, yeah, because you press a button, the home screen is going to show up, right? So I would not bring it up if I did not have an hour to talk about this thing. Look, I just watched this for 13 hours. I'm sleepy.
Where Aziz Ansari's character picks up the phone, and I guess they took a screenshot of a call screen and used that, but they forgot to turn off the portrait and landscape switching. So when he picks it up, the entire screen just flips the call screen. So such basic mistakes. And well,
which
it's
are
acceptable
amusing
in a sitcom, but in something like this, it just pulls you out of the world.
Yeah.
Another point, and it's weirder in this show because it's used as a plot point when Misty is in the car with that other cop who is corrupt.
Oh yeah.
And she tricks him into revealing himself by pretending to get a phone call, which he does by literally just picking up her phone and going like, hello, which is like the most fake way to take a call ever.
True. Well, it could have been on vibrate. I believe it.
So, but
it worked on me. It worked on me. Like it fooled me. Like I thought that was a cool.
I guess I'm just
cool
like
trick.
the kind of guy who wouldn't reveal that he's a corrupt cop because of a fake phone call. Because also is again, even if he believes that it's a fake phone call, just the way it's handled, so cartoony. He goes like, no, he's deeper in with them than me. I bet you didn't know that. I'm like, nobody talks like that.
Fair. What do you think of that character, though? I like that guy.
You mean Scarf, her
Scarf.
partner? Or I thought he was great.
I was so happy to see that actor.
In fact, the
I forget
moment
his name,
where he
but I loved him.
turns Frank Whaley.
Yeah.
The moment where he
Love
breaks
him.
bad, and well, not really breaks bad since he's always been bad, but when we find out he's bad when he kills Chico, great moment.
Oh, amazing.
And I wish they'd pulled off stuff like that. It's just that the tonal shifts, I feel like, is not just between two seasons. It just like leaps into ridiculous and then goes back every once in a while. Luke Cage getting fixed, for example, is possibly the stupidest sequence I've seen in my life.
Getting fixed? Oh, in the bathtub.
Yeah, in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Where like they're dipping him into it and going like, oh, maybe it's salt. Let's put some saline in here. And I'm like, what is happening? It's cartoony in a bad way. Like that. I mean, it's like they're Frankensteining him.
I mean, it was very similar to Wolverine's birth, where he gets made into the adamantium skeleton kind of thing.
Like
and the fact that there was a guy called Stryker in it, I was like, wow, this is way too close to home. But that's fine.
Well, I suppose it's in the execution of it, because it's literally maybe like they're trying to make it look like homely because it's a barn and whatnot, but they just don't pull it off well. And with these two guys running around going like... And the problem is, if you're going to do pseudo-sciencey talk, make it a little more abstract than like, maybe there should be saline. We all know that's salt water. So, from what I understand, they figured, let's put him into boiling acid and then throw some salt in the acid. I'm going to go a little all out, make up some words. Like, either make your science super accurate or go the other direction and make it super random so nobody knows what you're talking about. These guys, I mean, they're basically handling it like a home science experiment.
Pretty much. It just felt like kids in a chemistry class.
There's this one other moment where, right at the start, again, I'm talking about the abrupt jumps into ridiculousness and then back. When Pop dies, and Luke Cage just like shielded that one like 14-year-old kid, then he goes and grabs Pop, and it's so emotional because Pop is just dying. And he's like, no, Pop, don't die and stuff. And then Pop dies. And then Luke Cage is like crying for like a solid 30 seconds. Then he just looks up and screams out, somebody call an ambulance. I'm like, there's no one there, dude. You literally just saved the one person who's there. Who are you talking to? It just pulls you out of the show. And I feel like that's the issue. Great moments, let down by some bizarre moments.
This season definitely had its fair share. So let's cap this all off. So clearly, I think we both loved it. That goes without saying.
Yeah,
it was a great.
I know I'm complaining,
but it was a great show.
So here's what I think.
Sure.
And maybe this is what Netflix should do for these Marvel TV shows in general. 13 episodes is too much. It's too much to watch for us, probably, in a way. And it's too much to sustain a great story. It happens with Jessica Jones. The last third of episodes kind of gets draggy. It happens with the second season of Daredevil, particularly, once all the like ninja business comes in.
Right.
It happens with this show in a very drastic way because the first and second halves are such different shows. So maybe they should just do like 8 episodes or 10 episodes.
Take a page out of Stranger Things.
Exactly. Yeah. Keep a tight 8-hour show.
I think you're right. 8 or 9 if you subscribe to the 3-act theory.
Sure.
That most theatre needs to be in that way.
13
and I think
is too much is what you're saying.
13 is a very odd number.
Yeah.
It literally is an odd number. And it's an odd number because I think with all these shows, by episode 12, a lot of things cap off. And then with the last episode, it's like, what have we forgotten to do? Or what do you really need to get done? Because if you don't get it done, then this will make no sense at all. So we have to do that.
This show as well, where the last episode, basically everything's wrapped up in the first 10-15 minutes.
Pretty much.
In a horribly cheesy, corny ending fight.
That fight, oh my God.
It was so bad.
I will say
I don't even understand how Luke won.
Yeah.
What was that?
Okay, so I want to bring up 2 final points about this show.
Yes.
What I really enjoyed and what I did not enjoy. So, with reference to that fight, both points is that, like you said, you're not really sure how he won. Now, when this character was introduced as just a bulletproof guy who's super strong, on paper, that's a really boring character, right? That's the Superman character, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
That's like one part of the Superman character. So, when those are the stakes at hand, you're going to put the guy in a fist fight. How on earth will that be exciting for me to watch when I can see that the guy clearly is not going to be beaten by anything physical? So, fine, you have to invent something that can hurt him. Cool, you've invented that. Now you put that invention in a suit form. Fine, so the guy's going to fight him. Now, eventually, I think in the middle of what was like a 15-minute or 10-minute long, really absurdly long fist fight, Luke Cage notices that the suit has like a power supply to it or something, so I think he tries to like hit the power pack on his back or something like that. He does something with that.
Yes.
So like fine, try to be smart, and that's how he gets around it. Alright, cool. But every single time there was a fist fight with Luke Cage, once he was Luke Cage and not Carl Lucas, it was never terribly exciting because the guy's a superhero. He's impenetrable skin. You know, when you're fighting somebody like Daredevil, who is completely mortal. Yes. He's just really skillful, but if you cut him, he will bleed, and he will bleed out, and he will die.
So the choreography,
I care about that more. So
that's true.
It was always exciting to watch. It was really beautifully shot. All that's great, but there aren't enough stakes at hand when you've got a character like this. So I was never too invested in the fights in that regard.
Yes, I feel like those were well used up to a point. But it, like you said, it makes no sense in the finale.
Yeah.
If you see, like, a lot of the times the stakes are because Luke has to protect someone who's with him.
Right.
Who he knows is not invincible.
So you care about the other guy, but you don't care about Luke.
Or you care about, like, the challenge for Luke basically becomes like, okay,
how do you
like, how do I be one of the people when I keep walking around saying that I'm one of the people?
Right.
Essentially.
So, okay.
But yeah, which is why, again, that finale's fight makes no sense. First of all,
didn't do anything. It didn't feel like a finale to me.
Plot holes, because the guy literally is the one person who can find these Judas bullets. He had like 4 of them, and apparently he used them up.
I guess.
He only had 4 to start with. Then, through some very flaky science, he says, I'm mass manufacturing these now. And apparently you can just turn around and turn 4 bullets into millions of bullets and supply them to an entire police force, which again makes no sense. But again, this is the guy making those bullets.
Yeah.
And he decides to go in with the stupidest looking suit ever, which is a nod to his comic book look, yes.
Yeah,
but also sticks out so badly in this show.
Yeah. It looked like a cosplay of Iron Man got horribly wrong. But anyway, so that's the other thing.
Do you think Hammer Tech is like the Acme of the MCU?
Really quick, was Hammer Industries the company that what was his name? Oh, I'm forgetting his name. Sam Rockwell was running in Iron Man 2. That was the same industry, right? Okay, just checking. Cool. So yeah, I appreciate the links there. But
yeah, it's
I want to say
Acme where it just blows up the Roadrunner every
pretty
time.
Much. So the good thing, though, in reference to that fight, what I did enjoy seeing, which is, I think, metaphorical for the entire show for me, was seeing how this show was so much more grounded, and I felt more involved with the people and the place and the setting, as you said, in that I loved that he had that fight with basically the entire neighborhood around him and they're all cheering him on, and I cared so much more about what they had to say rather than the fight, and I think that they shot it as well in that regard. They were like, okay, the fight's happening, and in the meantime they're just like side conversations happening. So like, by the way, did you see that fight last night? Oh no, you mean this fight happened?
I thought
like,
that was amazing. In
that
fact,
was hilarious. Like let the superheroes fight. Yeah, exactly. Like
you hear people from like the background going like, punch him.
Yeah, like so
amazing.
That was endearing to me because I feel like finally we have got to the level where you remember, like, there was a point where there was speculation that they might have a sitcom, which I think might still happen. Based on the MCU, about the guys that have to go up and clean up after all the Avengers.
Yeah.
Like the cleanup crew at all the big sites that get blown up.
Yeah.
And treat that as a sitcom. Like, where are we going today? We're going to Sokovia. Where are we going today? We're going to New York. We're going back to Hell's Kitchen. We're going back to season 2 of Hell's Kitchen again. Oh no, now Jessica Jones is in Hell's Kitchen.
Those guys are in demand.
So those guys are in demand. So I appreciate that they decided to focus on the commentary of the citizens, just being like, well, he's going to fight and I'll just be here. Other thing, okay, sorry, I know I'm rambling, but I have to mention, I have to mention, I could not get over this, and this is purely because we're both filmmakers. The kid who was selling Blu-ray pirated copies of the
on 4K.
On 4K. All right, that was fine. That was cool. 4K is a thing now. It's on the iPhone. It's easily accessible. Cool.
But he had a red.
Right at the end, he calls up his friend and he's like, "Hey, bring the 4K camera." I was like, "Oh, that doesn't mean much. Literally, you can get that on your phone." Where is a dude that is selling pirated DVDs? One, who the hell buys pirated DVDs anymore? Yeah. In the middle of
they're selling pirated DVDs of the Incident.
In the middle of Harlem.
Pirated, they're bootlegs.
They're
movies.
Whatever. Who needs to sell them? You put them on YouTube. It's free. Who's going to pay money for that?
How do you make money off it?
But how do you afford a red camera if you're some kid?
Twice, you know. What? Right at the start, the first time you see him in like episode 5 or 6 something, he's talking and he's like, I got a friend who's got a red. And I'm
he did?
Yeah.
But how does he get that? He's like selling
on
bootlegs
like a funky
on the street.
shoulder rig, right?
Yeah. I was like, I want to be you. Like, I want that camera. Like, I'll give up this job and I'll do that.
Harlem isn't a poor neighborhood after all.
Clearly not.
Or selling those pirated DVDs of the Incident is, clearly a lucrative business.
I guess. Yeah, because there weren't enough news cameras there that covered it. Whatever. Anywho.
Barely makes any sense.
All right.
Also, wait, explain to me, how did Luke win the fight? Because from what I understood, he basically like looks around and goes like, maybe I should just believe in myself.
Basically.
And then one last punch. What is going on?
He never let go of Rose, and he just believed in himself.
The magic was inside him all along.
Pretty much.
I suppose.
On that note, should we wrap this up? Cool?
Yes.
All right.
Tell us what you thought of Luke Cage, please, because clearly we have like a variety of opinions on it. We loved it. Okay, let's make this a thing. Give me a fruit rating.
0.
What?
It's interpretive. That means I loved it.
Oh, because you don't like fruits?
I don't know.
I
will not stand by this meter.
feel like I would give it a solid 3.5 fruits.
It's art, man. You can't rate art.
I just rated art.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Well, yeah, basically we're saying it's a good show.
It was great.
Flawed in ways.
Like they all are.
We look forward to season 2 because I like the way they sort of like reset the puzzle board also by sending Luke to jail.
Yep.
The puzzle board, the chess board.
It'll be fun to see Matt and Foggy break them out.
By the way,
that'll be fun.
What is up with the references to Matt? Again, like a little too on the nose, where Claire keeps going like, I have a lawyer friend.
I didn't mind it. I think it was high time. Like, we need to address this more often.
What's with the whole being like sly, tongue-in-cheek with it? Like, if I was doing it, I'd be like, yeah, I have a lawyer friend. His name's Matt. He lives like 5 miles from here. But here it's like, I have a lawyer friend, ...
Any number of reasons. It could also just be for like people that are absolutely new to the universe and are just watching the show and don't know that lawyer friend is Daredevil. Maybe. But then again, I can't imagine somebody entering the Marvel Universe by watching Luke Cage as their opening thing. That's a pretty stupid move. So, anywho. But hey, maybe you are that one person, in which case I'm sorry. So please write in and tell us about your thoughts and feelings and your deepest, darkest secrets.
Yes.
You can write into us at contactgeekfruit@gmail.com. You can find us on our website, geekfruit.in. You can click that contact button and do what that thing tells you to do. You can follow us on social media, where all the social stuff is, at geekfruithq. You can follow me on Twitter at Jishnu Guha. You can send love letters to Tejas Menon at Tejas Menon on Twitter. You can write to Dinkar at Dinks. Yes. Is it Dinks Thinks or Dinks Thinks? Is it a soft the or a hard the?
It's interpretive. You can't put a title to art.
I'm gonna go with a dink.
All right.
So it's a Dinks Thinks at Twitter. So is that about it? That is everything.
That is about it. But
all right.
Yes, everyone write in, tell us what you thought. We shall discuss Luke Cage further, I suspect.
Probably. Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna go sleep now because I haven't done that in like 3 days.
Good night, Jishnuji.
Alright, see ya, you nerds.
Hey, it's Dinkar from Geek Fruit. Now, if you love to travel, if you swear by wanderlust, then have I got the podcast for you. Political analyst Ambika Vishwanath and corporate executive Hoshner reporter quit their day jobs in 2015 and set out on a journey to explore India that covered 15,000 kilometers and 13 states. And now you can hear them discuss that and the travel culture in our country on the Rediscovery Project. You can check out new episodes every Monday on iTunes, Stitcher, the IVM app, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And listen to it while traveling.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Sorry to say, but there's been a slight delay due to the apocalypse having suddenly begun. As you can see, there's death, destruction, and chaos taking place all around us. But don't you worry, food and drinks will be served shortly, and I would recommend checking out IVM Podcasts to get some of your favorite Indian podcasts. We'll keep you going till this whole thing blows over. Thank you.